All right, well, I just got to remind you guys that every time we bring a guest on, it's brought to you on the Gridiron Guys hotline for the best roofing in Northeast Ohio. Call 330-573-7967 today for a free estimate or roof inspection. And we heard your guys' responses.
Yeah.
What's DeQuell thinking? Steve, let's take it, and let's see if DeQuell can nail it. DeQuell?
There it is. The slow turnaround.
What's up, fellas?
That was awesome.
I had to do it. Cheers.
Tip of the cap. Tip of the cap. Yes, sir.
I love that big jar of corks you got there. That is sweet.
Yeah, I drink a lot of wine.
I wait patiently.
That's a lot of bottles.
How long have you been turned around?
How long have you been looking at that thing of corks?
That's the first time. First time I've turned around.
I can confirm. We could see him beforehand. He was not practicing. That was first try.
Nailed it. But we got to get a sound effect that goes bum, bum, bum when that thing turns around.
Or I'll get you next time, Gadget.
That was so good. Hey, DeQuell, your reaction first when Baker got traded yesterday. I know you've been kind of with Brad and Jay about, hey, if he's still here, let him play. What did you think when they traded him yesterday?
Yeah, so it confirmed, what a lot of people were thinking, from the outside looking in, that the Browns decided they did not want Baker Mayfield to take another snap as a quarterback of this franchise. And on one hand, what I thought about was they really are investing this year in the Jacoby Brissett, or do they really know what the suspension would look like from Deshaun Watson? So there's a lot that went through my head in terms of quarterback play, right? And I went back and watched some of Baker Mayfield's games and some highlight plays, right? And the one thing I landed on was the fact that a lot of his chunk plays and a lot of his successful plays down the field were predicated on play action passing and moving him outside of the pocket. Yeah. And so by this move being made and watching Jacoby Brissett, with his time with Indianapolis and just knowing what type of quarterback he is, he's more of a pocket passer. And maybe in my mind, in my crazy mind of mine, I'm thinking maybe Kevin Stefanski wants to grow this offense to be more of a down the field attack style offense with a sprinkle of the run. Obviously, you can't abandon it, but because of Jacoby Brissett's skill set and the fact that you invested so much into Deshaun Watson, we don't know when he's going to play. But one thing we know about Deshaun Watson is he has a multitude of talent, right? He can create plays within the pocket, outside of the pocket. He's great at doing both of these things. So maybe this is a glimpse of Kevin Stefanski seeing a different side of an offense that we hadn't necessarily seen when he had the Odell Beckham Jrs. And the Jarvis Landry. So all of that went through my head when the Baker Mayfield trade happened. It was just about time. I was going to curse, but I'm not going to try to hold it back. It was about time something happened, but on another note, it was surprising that the move was made prior to knowing what the suspension was going to look like from Deshaun Watson's standpoint.
You know what, DeQuell? Thank you for setting me up, my brother. You set me up so good on this one. Let me get my crystal ball out. Okay. Now you've been in the locker room and you have a good working relationship with people in the locker room, right? Now, have you ever had a situation, I'm sure this has happened, where you talk to a player and you say, hey, man, I'm thinking about hanging it up. I ain't really got it no more. Or you talk to a guy, hey, man, after this season, I'm looking at Atlanta. I'm looking like, my peoples is down there. I might do that. So you get a little inside information. So you hear it, but you don't tip your hat to nobody. You just keep that under your hat and that's just locker room code. He just letting you know. Now, if I could believe that happens with players, right, why would it be a giant leap to think that don't happen with owners in the league? If I'm going to spend $230 million and give him an upgraded contract, do you not think that Jimmy and D Haslam don't say, hey, let me talk to you real quick. Now, we want to do this move. Can you give me a little something, a little hint? You ain't got to tell me what it is on what the suspension going to be. And I said it from Jump Street. There's no way that you go buy a brand new Bentley, Rolls Royce like you like, without test driving it. You
got the miniature one.
You got the miniature one. But you got to know how it sounds. You want to know the specs. I need to know everything because that's an investment, right? So for me, This move signified not only did the Browns like Jacoby Brissett, I think it already signifies the fact that they know a little more than they was letting on about this whole Deshaun Watson. And to them, a season or indefinite was never on the table. But they can't say that to us. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, especially being a player and understanding. Look, you look at the history of this league and the collusion that's happened with stemming back to the Colin Kaepernick issue. You better well believe if a move is going to be made like that and that type of investment, there's the right ears, the right conversation has happened. Now, in my opinion, I think Deshaun Watson will probably get a year. That's me in my own world, but you better believe the ownership and the right people understand or had conversations about potential suspensions and what's the possibility. Because as you mentioned, you used the analogy with the cards and all that. Owners don't, it's the reason why owners are owners. They don't make decisions based on impulse all the time. You know, it's intel, the right intel, and the right conversations that needs to be had. And I do think a lot of that has played into them acquiring Deshaun Watson and making the move and making this big splash about, you know, Baker Mayfield and the inconsistency between the two parties and him not being there anymore. I'm a big believer in that. Definitely happens behind the scenes.
All right, Duke, well, I agree with both of you to an extent, but then at the same time, I'm also reminded that this is the same guy who allegedly might have drafted Johnny Manziel, at least in part based on a tip from a homeless man. So I think we have earned the right to judge them a little bit and be a bit speculative when they're making decisions for our team. Okay, so, but my larger question is about Baker. As somebody who knows his fan base, as somebody who was here for a very long time, and one of the few people who had success, what do you think his legacy is going to be in 10 years in this town? You know this fan base. How are we going to look at him in 10 years overall?
Yeah, I think he'll always have a home here because he rose this Cleveland Browns out of football purgatory, and they got them to the playoffs. So, again, we can nitpick about his personality traits, but I do think the Cleveland Browns fan base are a smart fan base who do identify with the guy. Hey, listen, that year was probably a great year. Some little, you know, the diehard Cleveland Browns fans had their kids go to the games that year, and they would have something to talk about. So I do think in terms of his legacy here in Cleveland, you're going to have two communities. Some communities that will not identify with him and the way he kind of dealt with things as a leader of this team and the way he went out and just, you know, they wouldn't accept him. But there's another community of people that would accept him, and he could always come back. And I think he'll always have a special place in the Cleveland Browns community.
DeQuell's definitely right. But I also think a big factor in 10 years from now is going to be how much success Deshaun Watson had subsequently, right? Like, let's say the Browns win a Super Bowl in the next 5 years. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They'll kind of forget
Baker gets diminished.
Yeah.
If Watson has a great career and the Browns win a ton of games and somehow win a Super Bowl, his time here gets diminished.
I think I disagree. I kind of disagree.
No,
because I think that this fan base, if we win a Super Bowl with Watson, I think they're the kind of fan base that says that is more, it's easier to be magnanimous in victory. And if we are going some winning streak and this guy takes us there, I think that he comes back in here and people are just like, Baker, thanks for helping set us up. You were part of the reason that we turned the corner. You were there for the 0-16 season. Then you went in the next season and led all rookies of all time in touchdowns and really got us a vibe and a swagger that helped us carry this on. I think if it goes poorly and Baker does well or something like that, I think there's a better chance of us not responding well to him when he comes back then because we're petty and bitter and we hang on to things like that.
He's petty and bitter too.
Yeah, so we all are. We're petty too.
Yeah, I'm definitely petty.
And I'm representing a Baker bro today, just so you know, DeQuell. That's why I'm dressed like this.
Yeah, no, I see you're repping hard.
Okay, thank you.
Mikey McNuggets, you've got some questions for the panel and DeQuell Jackson.
I do. DeQuell, let's start with this one. Steve, it's number 19. I don't know if you could find it in the rundown. These questions, I labeled them a little funky. It's 56. But this is a good one. DeQuell, I saved this one for you. Let's take it, Steve. How do you think OBJ and his dad celebrated last night?
Oh, Lord.
Listen, OBJ has a Super Bowl ring. He's not thinking about Cleveland and Baker Mayfield and what's going on. He's trying to rehab his knee. But, you know, he's probably, you know, I hate to say this, but sometimes your competitive, you know, juices kind of flow. But he'll never say it publicly. But he's probably glad that he's out of that situation. And Baker Mayfield has another home, and he's not thinking about Baker Mayfield.
I got a
He should
question
come
for you.
back. Maybe Odell comes back.
I'm about to say,
I actually think that Odell Beckham Jr. called Baker Mayfield and told him, "Congrats, do your thing." I think that's
I don't
exactly.
I tell you what, an interesting thing would be, say D.Y. got suspended for 8 games.
Yeah.
You think, would it be crazy if they said Odell when D.Y. come back? Because I think he ain't going to be ready until late October.
No, I don't think it's crazy. You can bring him back.
You want to come back? You ain't got to worry about learning the new playbook because you know it already.
Well, you think that makes sense?
Yeah, it does, because as a receiver, you want to go where the arm is.
Yeah.
And Deshaun Watson is going to be playing whenever we realize what his suspension is. Whenever he comes back, he's going to be playing for his legacy, his reputation, all things considered. And so, yeah, if I'm a receiver, I'm definitely following this situation closely. And for Odell Beckham, you understand the scheme, you know the players, you understand the coaches. I wouldn't rule it out, honestly.
Myles Garrett is the leader in the locker room now. If Myles Garrett really wants him to be back on the team, he already done put it on Instagram.
That's true.
It's not like Odell wasn't open in the
Miles and Watt. I mean, the quarterback's eventually got to be the leader of the
Yes,
team. There's no
eventually.
doubt.
All Browns fans need to go onto their social media and scrub all negative Odell stuff you put up when he left right now, in case his dad is scrolling through.
Bring him back.
The problem with it is, I think he sold his house in Cleveland already.
I mean,
He's rich.
He can have mine. He can have my house.
You stay with Mike.
There you go. I got a guest room.
McNuggets, next question.
You're
All right,
right.
Steve, let's take it. We talked about this a little earlier. DeQuell, want to ask you, Carolina, Cleveland playing week 1. What's your prediction for Baker's stat line against the Browns and a final score?
Well, you're predicting that he's going to be the starter. So I'm not necessarily sold he's going to be the starter because listen, I mean, you have to learn a new playbook. This will be his 5th offensive coordinator. It's not a shoo-in. Again, on paper, he's the better talent, but I'm not so sure, he is a shoo-in to be the starter. Even though I think he's a better talent, he's also coming off shoulder injury as well, right? So he hasn't really thrown the football in the last few months, or probably the last few months he has. So he's got an uphill battle that he's got to work through with new teammates. And you have Robbie Anderson that made the tweet about, no, he didn't want him, and he backtracked and said he was defending his quarterback, which I don't know why you would defend because he didn't play well. So
No one defends Sam Darnold.
That's silly.
Yeah, Sam Darnold. Yeah, it's a lot of things he has to work through. So to answer your question, to humor you, his stat line, I think it will be average at best and nothing more than we've seen before.
Myles Garrett will have more sacks than Baker Mayfield will have completions.
That's
absurd.
Completions?
That's absurd.
Or touchdowns?
It's absurd.
If I had to give if I gave a realistic stat line for Baker in that game, I'd say he'd probably go 10 for 22, 110 yards.
Reading my mind.
1 touchdown, 2 picks.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That's trash. I agree.
That's about what it is. That's about how he is.
If Garrett does sack him, he's got to put up that tombstone in his yard, and it's got to be tiny. It's got to be a little tiny tombstone. You know what I'm talking about?
But
Just
yes,
extra
right.
shame.
He put all the
Extra
tombstones.
shame.
Yeah. Don't we have to? By the way, before your next question, Mikey, don't we have to have a progressive commercial with Baker moving out of the stadium and moving into whatever the name of the stadium is in Carolina?
Someone's TikToking it right now, I assure you.
Right? Don't we have to have that? All right, McNuggets, what do you got?
Well, I'm glad DeQuell mentioned Robbie Anderson. Steve, let's take the SOT, then I'll ask the question. This was Robbie Anderson defending himself. He tweeted this yesterday. Let's take a listen.
I wonder if you could explain why you had reacted negatively to the prospects of these guys acquiring Baker.
I said what I said, That's just my thinking out loud, my thought,
What influenced that particular tweet?
Just trying to be a good teammate to my quarterback, That's it. Just trying to defend the guy who is my quarterback in a sense, you know what I'm saying? That's it.
So
Robbie
DeQuell,
Anderson,
the question is, can Baker and Robbie Anderson ever squash their beef?
I guess.
Yeah,
Robbie Anderson.
You ain't got no
come in and play
choice.
well.
You gotta
Right.
cut.
DeQuell, can they squash it? What do you think?
Yeah, they can squash it as long as Baker Mayfield plays well, but everyone knows, listen, this is a minor significant upgrade if you look at Sam Darnold, and listen, he clearly got caught in the lie because you're not going to defend a guy who played terribly.
Of course.
I know you like him, but you're a receiver. You want guys that have big arm that can get you the football because you make more money that way with more team success and all that other stuff you want to pile on. But listen, yeah, they can mend the beef, but Baker Mayfield has to win the job and has to win the trust of his teammates, and he has to throw the ball and get him the ball. And
let's say Robbie Anderson here. He'd be a decent number 2 guy here.
I always look at it like this, man. When you're a quarterback, man, you're supposed to be elevated.
He's got to smooth that
We
over.
coming from a sunken place where we asking, can the receiver and the quarterback make it? No, the quarterback come in, he get you together. Hey, man, let's go out to lunch real quick.
Yeah.
Let me talk to you real quick. Y'all hash it out, and before you know it, I'm the number 1 receiver trying to get the football. These people be playing checkers, not it's chess, bro.
Listen.
Higher elevation, man.
You don't think people around the league watch their Odell and Baker stuff? Like, every receiver is probably like, listen, I don't trust dude. You couldn't get Odell the ball. You not
Exactly.
That is a good point.
Exactly. That's a great point. You couldn't get Odell the ball, and here I am. You have to elevate. To G's point, you got to be able to come in as a quarterback and elevate the guys around you. I don't think that's necessarily Baker Mayfield's skill set.
He had a bad shoulder, dude.
Doesn't
He played half the season injured. He had a bad shoulder.
They was
Super Bowl.
Wait a minute. He was tough as nails.
Wait a minute.
Man.
Hold on. They wasn't connecting before the shoulder injury, so that's not gonna hold.
Go on, Hayden.
Since 1999, man. Since 99.
By the way, I think I think Robbie Anderson's hairstyle, like, I need to have that hairstyle. How good would that look? Me with Robbie Anderson's hair?
Not at all.
No?
Go for it, man.
Absolutely not.
Be you. Why not? Try something.
You know what, boy?
I want to be
Do a
creative.
summer cut.
Everybody needs a no man and they friend.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be that guy.
You said I can't?
Absolutely not.
You don't think I can pull that off?
No.
I'm the friend that encourages bad
I want to try
decisions.
something different. I've had the same short hair for a long time. I dyed my hair blonde when I was in college.
Oh, yeah.
I got to shake it up in my 50s
That's
now.
as far as you should go.
Hey, hold on. First of all, let's be the cultural savvy people we are. It's not possible for you.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's keep that above.
Enough product.
Who you think you is? Kodak?
Wait a second, hold on. There was when I used to go to Marine Park in Brooklyn to play basketball. All right, I played on the scrub court, but there were guys. But there were guys that were really good. Chris Mullen came down there a couple times to play basketball. That guy could play, and there was this one dude. He was a white guy who had dreadlocks. I don't know how he made them, but he had dreadlocks.
He made them.
And they were down to his ankles.
He didn't say, you see, he didn't culture. He didn't say grow. He said, I don't know how he made them things, but
He was a white dude with dreadlocks.
Sure.
And ever since then, I was like, someday, maybe I could do something like different with my hair, but I haven't had the guts to do it. And now I may try to do it.
Now they wear these hair pieces for men. Maybe for Halloween you come up with Robbie Anderson.
Then it looks like I'm making fun. I just want to, like...
Yeah, we wouldn't want you to
I
look
don't
silly.
want to make fun.
Right.
I don't know.
Not appropriate culture.
If our executive
I've sidetracked us here.
If our executive producer don't let us wear baseball hats on camera, they not letting
I'm
you
just
saying.
He got a point with that one.
All right, that's it. I've sidetracked us. Mikey, next question.
Okay, this is a two-part question, or really it's a bet. Which one would you rather take? Baker is 10-1 to win Comeback Player of the Year, and he's 100-1 to lead the NFL in passing yards. Which one's more realistic here?
DeQuell?
Comeback Player of the Year.
I was
going to
say that
NFL
too.
in passing yards.
Which is
Comeback
more
Player of the
realistic?
Year. But that's more realistic.
Let me ask
The
a
second
different
one's
way.
impossible.
Which one would you rather put money on? Is there any
the
chance
first
he
one.
leads the NFL in passing yards?
No.
It's 100-1 odds, though.
No.
Him leading the league in passing yards is literally flushing your money in the
So
toilet.
do you? So Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
Like, what are
Listen,
you
I'm
talking
not saying
about?
I'd bet on it. I'm just giving you the two best options.
quarterback,
to
no.
make
Joe
money off
Burrow.
of Baker Mayfield.
If I'm going to bet, I'm going with Comeback Player of the Year because, one, there could be some type of emotional support behind that.
Yeah.
Baker had a bad deal. He had a raw deal in
We love a
Cleveland.
good narrative.
He come back off of a shoulder injury, and he actually played really well. Carolina won more games than they were projected to. Like that, he'll win it because of that. Like that's politics.
Even if he plays okay, they might still give it to him.
Right.
Because
But
they
there
like
ain't
that
no
narrative.
way, as my name is Tyvis Chancey Powell, he's leading the NFL in passing yards.
Watch this, DeQuell. this is kind of off the beaten trail a little bit, but you know, they just confirmed the narrative. Baker, he was hurt. He could be comeback player of the year. And I'm here to say it. I don't care how well Deshaun Watson plays. He will never be an MVP. They will make sure that does not happen.
That's politics.
I'm going to let you know right now. There will be no writer. I mean, these are the people.
There'll be some, but not enough for him to win.
These are the same people that didn't vote for Terrell Owens as a first ballot Hall of Famer because he did what? Because he did crunches in his driveway. Are you serious?
Those were good crunches.
Aaron Rodgers did win MVP this year after the whole vaccine immunized
that's
thing,
Aaron
though.
Rodgers.
That
that's
ain't got
Aaron
There's
Rodgers.
levels to this. I don't want to get to the levels, though.
Yeah.
No.
I'll get to the level. White guy's going to pass is what he's saying.
I understand. Hey, Bush, to steal your last
That's what he's saying.
I'll read
I
the
agree.
subtitle.
Nice summation.
Put it in
Yeah.
subtitles.
And by the
right?
way, all these tweets about Aaron Rodgers, everybody's got tattoos, Aaron Rodgers. You're not that creative.
Whoa,
By the way, it was a joke.
I don't.
Well, okay, so most players have tattoos.
Okay.
Not Tyvus. He keeps it clean.
You know.
for
Aaron
you.
Rodgers should not have won the MVP, by the way. And
Who should have? Jonathan.
Joe Burrow.
You think Joe?
outta here.
I wouldn't have been opposed to that, but I would have. If anybody should have won it, it should have been Cooper
He
Kupp.
took the worst team in
That's a good
football to the
point.
Super Bowl.
Cooper Kupp won the Triple Crown and won the Super Bowl, and I think he won MVP of the Super Bowl. What more do you want?
Wide receivers don't make the impact that the quarterback.
He did.
That guy did.
He took the
That's
I'm
job.
about to say, man,
the
he
Detroit
did
Lions
everything that he could possibly do.
Agreed,
It
but
can
he's
never.
not putting up those numbers with Jared Goff.
Hey, we
Not
got
that
one more
big.
question for
Yeah.
DeQuell. One more question for DeQuell. Steve, let's take it. Has a fan base ever been happier to get rid of a guy who they once thought was the savior?
I don't know if that's totally fair. Go ahead, DeQuell.
So I was a part of the Brady Quinn DA Derek Anderson transition, and when I tell you, I had never heard a fan base cheer when a guy got injured more than I did at Cleveland Browns Stadium when Derek Anderson got injured and Brady Quinn came in. That was I had never been a part
Hold
of
on,
anything
wait a
like
minute.
that.
DeQuell, I got it.
shots,
Hold on, because when CJ Beathard got hurt and San Fran and Jimmy went in, they went nuts.
Yeah.
And we on the sideline was like, dang, he hurt. Like, y'all ain't got no sympathy.
Right.
They
So
cheered
I
here
actually
when
got
he was
to,
out.
I'm with you on that one. I got to witness that one too.
I think there's still a lot of fans that are sad that Baker's gone too. There's a good chunk of the fan base that is sad. That Baker's gone.
60%.
No,
I
not
don't know
that.
that. I don't know that high.
Listen, I'm on a lot.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm on a lot of Cleveland Browns board. You got to understand something where the fan base has shifted from earlier last year. When playoff time when Odell was doing his thing, it was 75%.
Yes.
that was squarely in the corner
I
of
think
Baker
your high was
Mayfield.
60 though.
I'd be
And
fine.
it's a racial divide
It's
too. That, to be
55,
honest,
yeah.
is a racial divide.
And I'll
there
also point out that it's like sort of like looking at Twitter, and it's just that's the loudest contingent
that's
of the fan base. There are a lot of casual. My mom isn't telling you how she feels on there. She has no clue how to even get on Twitter. So what I'm saying is, like, there are people like that.
60%
There's a big part of the fan
high,
base,
man.
and we got an older part of this fan base that is not very active on social media, and we don't know exactly how they feel, and we can't
I think it's a third. I only think it's a third.
You know what? You know what's
I think
crazy?
it's about half.
Since he's been traded, the only wish I've seen is Wyatt Teller's wife.
She's always talking
She
about it.
tweeted something about
Maybe they got some weird
how
thing
they
going
got
on.
great people with Emily and
That
Baker.
is weird.
That's the only
I haven't been
thing
watching,
I've seen.
but
True,
that's
when
weird.
Odell
Odell left. Oh, the Rams got a good one.
everybody
My bro.
was tweeting about
Right.
it.
This one I ain't heard a
That is
thing.
indicative. That
Not a
is
peep.
important.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So we
Very
established that.
All right, we got one more for DeQuell, Mikey.
Yeah, well, this isn't even a question. You know what? Actually, I'm going to ask DeQuell this. We talked about this earlier. Were you surprised by the maturity that Baker actually showed through the second half of this process? I know he went on the podcast and talked, and we kind of ripped him for that. But since then, he shut his mouth. He was quiet. He did his camp in Oklahoma with the kids. Were you actually impressed with a little bit of maturity he showed handling the second half of this process?
I mean, I think time will tell, but he had no choice. If he wanted to play in this league, he had to show 31 other teams that he could handle this situation appropriately. Now, we still have a lot of time to go because, listen, he's going to be in a room with a guy who was drafted, third overall in the same draft? There's a level of competitiveness there and a level of maturity you have to exude because, quite frankly, are they going to be in a position to help each other? But in the offseason, he said all the right things when the camera was in front of him to answer your question. But I think this situation here has to shape him, has to affect his level of maturity because, listen, a lot of other, we've said it before on this program, a lot of other guys have to deal with this all the time when you get drafted over and you're looking around you and you're the elder statesman as a young guy ready to take your position. And you got to learn how to deal with it. Unfortunately for him, it was on public display. And then you had a guy come in, get the biggest contract ever in your house, and with all the this black cloud looming over him. So, yeah, it was a tough pill to swallow. Do I think he can come out of it? Time will tell. Time will tell.
DeQuell, great stuff as always, man. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I wish you guys had a
There
great
you go.
Enjoy your drink.